So, what's your take on what's happened in the UK with the arrest of Tommy Robinson?
It's bizarre. So I thought that there was an arrangement with the police, that they knew he was coming back. They knew our rally was taking place. And so I thought the understanding was that he would hand himself in after the rally, so that would go peacefully.
What's it about? Who's speaking and not receiving any information in return? I just thought, I don't really want to lend my name to something that may not have any, and I don't think it has got any fruitful bounty to come from it, other than the wonderful communion of people who are pissed off with the way things are,
The march itself is for the same purpose it's always been, right? To unite the kingdom. Of course, Tommy is a major figurehead, and a lot of it does revolve around him in certain ways. So him being removed from the situation has caused attention in the group of people organizing, but I don't think that should affect the event itself. We've all contributed in some way, shape, or form to this movement, to this event in particular. And if there was better communication, then some of this drama might not have happened.
Welcome to another episode of Fox and Father, with me, the Fox, and him. Father seems to be sat next to a virgin of some kind, who's a lot bigger than he is.
Is she bigger than I? She is bigger in every way than I am. This is our blessed lady. At a men's conference at an Anglican church in South Carolina. So I could just stow away in a quiet room. So
nice.
How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ruminating on the last couple of days with it seems to have all happened so fast with our getting found guilty for praying, you're getting Conservative councillors jailed, you're getting Tommy Robinson jailed and remanded under, they're saying that he's remanded under contempt of court charges, but the guy literally flew back into England to face justice. That wonderful word. And I'm sort of, I'm ruminating on all of that and what the direction of whatever it is. I suppose we could start by talking about that in a way. But first, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been a busy weekend at this conference, and this was arranged almost a year ago, so this has been planned for a long time, which is why I'm not in London this weekend, which was only planned 2 months ago. But it's nice to be out here in South Carolina with a bunch of Christian men talking about how we can all make a difference, what we can do to contribute to creating a better society and to advancing the kingdom, rather than pointing a finger or blaming anyone, just focusing inwards as we should be doing.
What do you think about why? And this is not a loaded question; it's just generally an interesting question. Why a male-only conference?
Because men and women are different. We have different roles in society, and we contribute in different ways. And men-only spaces are important, and women-only spaces are important. And in a men's conference, we can discuss how men specifically can contribute, what we can do, how we can do better. And actually, what I keynoted, so I opened on last night, the night before, and I spoke on actually feminism is a massive problem, liberalism is a massive problem. But actually, the bigger problem is weak men, and always has been. We blame Eve for the fall. Yes, Eve did listen to the serpent in her ear. She was deceived, and she did eat of the tree of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. However, Adam didn't prevent her, didn't teach her, didn't rebuke her. Adam was the first weak man amongst many weak men. So we have to be stronger. We have to be better. That's the message.
I do like the fact that America is unashamed in its way of going. Men and women are different. They have different qualities. Men can do certain things, women can do certain things. I remember going to Christian conferences as a kid, and they would frequently separate out the men and the women. And I just thought, there's nothing wrong with that. Why is that wrong? But the wokesters would have us separate out everybody, whereas actually it can be. You can have more constructive conversations sometimes with men. You can have sometimes really constructive conversations with women. It's not really codified in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it is a differentiator that actually makes a difference. We could the work would say you have to separate by sexuality or race or things that we shouldn't be identified by, but our maleness and our femaleness does contribute to the way we see the world and the way we contribute to the world. And so, yes, we have to come together because we're complementary. Men and women work together. Women as the helper for men, for Adam. But that doesn't mean we can't have conversations sometimes. It's a good thing. And of course, we should be protecting women's spaces. We have these men, these perverted men trying to take them over.
So what's your take on what's happened in the UK with the arrest of Tommy Robinson?
It's bizarre. So I thought that there was an arrangement with the police, that they knew he was coming back. They knew our rally was taking place on Saturday. And so I thought the understanding was that he would hand himself in after the rally, so that would go peacefully and people could protest as is their lawful right. So I don't understand why he's being arrested now, prior to the rally, and not bailed, but remanded in custody of this the contempt of court case. He's not going to go anywhere because he's here specifically for a purpose, for the rally. But it's not like he's going to run away, and he's already agreed to hand himself in. I don't know how the rally went yet, because like I said, in a conference, I've just come off stage, so I've just been speaking. I haven't managed to check Twitter and find out if it's gone peacefully or if there's been any instance. But I think it's a silly thing for the police to not let him be at his rally peacefully and encourage his crowd and our crowd to be peaceful. It seems like people would be angry and upset if he's arrested directly prior to the event.
Yes, well, I can fill you in that people that it's been very peaceful as per usual, which is good, which is obviously demonstrative of the great British public, who are, they're generally not a violent bunch of people, despite being smeared and stained by the government as far right extremists. All the media coverage is obviously far right extremists. Tommy Robinson is jailed. I'm not extremely disappointed by the media class for not covering what's being done to this guy. I think it's absolutely horrendous. But it seems to have gone. I think there's been a couple of arrests, but it seems to have gone pretty peacefully. And if Nick Knowles from Hope Not Hate is pissed off, then that's a good thing, right?
That is a good sign. Yeah.
No,
he should be arrested.
He should be arrested. And I mean, for me, I sort of have worked with these guys a lot. Mm-hmm. And Tommy has a really wonderful ability to sort of galvanize people and get them to find him and support him and work for him and all that sort of stuff. And his head has obviously been very much in this court case, which has been difficult. But we move on to into a tricky area where we think, okay, so I was asking myself yesterday, what is this about? What is this march about, other than to show another one of his films, all of them well researched and good, and so good that they jail him. But what is it? What are we turning up to a Tommy Robinson film premiere, or are we turning up to a bunch of people who are trying to hang on his coattails? Or is this a real movement? I'm sort of. I was left after you. I think you were in that chat, aren't you?
Yeah.
I was left going, oh Lord! So even in this group, there are those that are. There's something I want to know what your thoughts are on. For me, what struck me about dealing with those guys last night and saying that I'm a bit cautious and my original, I have to rewind the whole thing. My position was, what's it about? What are we doing? Who's speaking? What's the goal? What are we trying to achieve here? And I didn't hear any response back. Now, for every single other one of these things, I've heard a response back, because also I've been involved in the organisation of it, and I wasn't involved at all in the organisation of this. And people were very secretive about the organisation of it, full stop. So I started to think, well, hang on a minute, I don't know any of you people well enough to know whether I want to share a stage or a platform with you. And that's not to say I'm deplatforming them. I'm just saying I'm deplatforming myself, because I don't know what you stand for. I still don't think it's clear what this movement does stand for. And until I do know, I'm not really sure what one can do about it, whether it's just going to be, raging against the dying of the light in a way of people gathering together, which is wonderful and really important to protest against the crap meted out on them, where you find a woman jailed, you find a man jailed for praying for the unborn, you find a woman jailed for really sort of, we talked about it last week, but not an unwise social media post, but she's not a threat to society at all. And then we've got people being released from prisons and posting selfies in front of their Bentleys, which I'm guessing were possibly not paid for by legitimate means, going big up Keir Starmer. So I was in the position of going, if you can't tell me what we're trying to do and also who's going to speak, that's a really important thing. I've always thought that Carl Benjamin is a very good speaker. He comes in calmly and reminds people of the tone. And I saw a few people, and I'd been reading over the week, a few people, with their Keir Starmer needs to be killed from, hung for murder or something like that. And I was just like, I don't want to get involved in this at all. So after WhatsApping and saying, guys, what's it about? Who's speaking, and not receiving any information in return, I just thought, I don't really want to lend my name to something that may not have any, and I don't think it has got any fruitful bounty to come from it, other than the wonderful communion of people who are pissed off with the way things are, So it's not a frustration, but my desire is to see a coordinated political movement coinciding with a coordinated political party, and no political party seems to be interested in the coordinated political movement other than UKIP. And I know you're gonna down me on this one, but I think UKIP is a busted flush, and they always have done since those days. But at least it has views and it says them. So I just wonder what you think. I suppose my question to you is, what do you think about why are people marching? And what are they marching for?
Okay, so I understand your concerns, and I think what I don't understand is all the drama in the group chat. That was crazy to see, and because I'm in a different time zone, I wasn't able to jump in or anything. But it's just weird to observe what's happened. The march itself is for the same purpose it's always been, right? To unite the kingdom. So I was expecting to see 100,000 people out there who are sick and tired of two-tier Keir's system, who are sick and tired of mass immigration and innocent British girls being murdered for the sake of diversity, and people who want to reclaim some sense of self as a nation together, coming together to say we are Great Britain and we're proud of that. That's a good thing. A bit of patriotism, celebration, a bit of festival, good music, prayers, good speakers. So I don't think that's changed. And it was never a Tommy Robinson movement. You and myself, Carl, who you mentioned, he's fantastic. A number of others have been involved all along. So yes, Tommy getting locked up changes things, but it doesn't halt things. And I think there needs to be a separation of the group chat, the organizational committee, if you want to call it that, and the actual event itself, and that the event can still go on, even though with Tommy Robinson locked up, it needs to go on. So we can say #free Tommy Robinson and get that trending and get the voice heard that the British public are fed up with the elite suppressing us, oppressing us, and their tyranny and their anti-free speech, their anti-freedom of association, their anti-freedom of religion, and all of these things. So the movement is important. The rally is important. And that none of that's changed. Of course, Tommy is a major figurehead, and a lot of it does revolve around him in certain ways. So him being removed from the situation has caused attention in the group of people organizing. But I don't think that should affect the event itself. But I understand your reasons for, you want to know who's speaking. But I think the people who were responding to you weren't responding in a good way, and they could have handled that better. It seems they're not good at managing people. They're not good at managing events. I don't know who that one particular person is. We know most of the people in there, but that one person, I don't know who that was. It was not a good response. But Carl jumped in, and as he does, the reasonable, moderate guy, he interjected. But the point I'm getting to is that we've all contributed in some way, shape, or form to this movement, to this event in particular. And if there was better communication, some of this drama might not have happened. So 2 or 3 of the names on that list of speakers that I assume went ahead and spoke are there because I contributed those names. So I know that I can vouch for those people. And so, it's not just these other people that are being hostile in the group. Like, all of us have got some input, so we can all have part of that conversation and say, well, I can vouch for this one. I know this one. This is good. But I understand that you're right to be concerned about who you're speaking with, who you're sharing a platform with. And you're right that it's not deplatforming people by removing yourself. It's just being cautious. That's very sensible. I've seen responses to your statement, right? So I've seen on Facebook, people have been very supportive of what you said. On Twitter, people have been very hostile towards you. So maybe there's somewhere in the middle. But people have been tagging me, which is annoying. I'm not your keeper. Like, you can make your own mind up what you're doing.
Are you not my keeper?
I'm not my brother's keeper.
You're not your brother's keeper. I'm always surprised that I'm not far right enough for the far right, and I'm not far left enough for the conservative. Okay, I'm going to be brutally honest, because I think that why not? In these conversations, why not be brutally honest? My sense is that leadership, or lack thereof, leaves a void. And in that void, you have a lot of people who are, well, I call them proxies. I call them people. I deal with these people, and as you must have done over your political career, you deal with people that are one step away from the answer to the question that you want to get. So I put into our group, which is, which was building towards something, which I noticed that the name of the group itself implies that it's leading towards something, but that thing seems to be being left behind. And I'm sort of like, well, what are you marching for? And I want to know what they're marching for, and also what are the organizational. So essentially, I think I felt a little bit like a trinket who is like, I'm just a trinket on your thing, and that's okay. I've got no beef with that, as everyone well knows. I've got no interest in being in charge of anything or anything like that.
But perhaps you should have. Perhaps instead of asking, like, what are we doing for, you could have been asserting and say, look, we're still marching for X, Y, and Z. Perhaps your role could be more stepping in as more of a leadership role now that Tommy has taken out the picture temporarily.
Yeah, I think it's a good, fair critique that one should go, okay, well, what is the direction of this thing moving forward, and what is the connection between it and the mainstream politicians that one seeks to affect the thinking of? And I don't think that's been thought through. There's still a separation there.
That's going to be a separation for a long time. And I know it is important what you're saying. There has to be a connection between the grassroots movement and the political movement, but that's not going to be there for some time, because Reform are doing their own thing. They don't want to engage with me, you, Tommy, or anyone else in the group because they're elitist. Reclaim is on hold, on a shelf. You're doing whatever you're doing with it. UKIP is there. Certain people like it, certain people don't. Like, there is no obvious answers. That's going to take some time to work through. But that doesn't mean the grassroots movement can't continue to build momentum in the meantime.
No, I think you're right. And I do think that a grassroots movement should continue to build. I just want to know what it is about. And therefore,
who are you asking? Why are you not defining it?
Because I think that all of this stuff is collegiate, and you need to say, we're working towards what we loosely call the pledge, which was a way of people saying, saying that this is what I pledge personally towards my country, which I think we should have in the United Kingdom, along with First and Second Amendment rights, having said that. But it strikes me that there's a sort of, especially given the response, that there was a sort of avaricious anger about the fact that I was asking the question about what is the goal? What are you trying to achieve?
Because Tommy's been arrested, right? And it's like, I don't think people were necessarily upset with you, but they directed it at you, and they were wrong. They were absolutely wrong. But you've got to ask yourself the question too: am I contributing or am I obstructing? And the pledge was supposed to sign a pledge at a separate event and then go to the 26th and announce the pledge and ask people to join the pledge. But you personally said you didn't want two separate events, so then it all comes to the one event. So when Tommy is removed for the 26th, that event's still going ahead. You and everyone else in that group should say, well, this event's still going ahead because it's still the pledge. We're coming together to sign the pledge, to let people know what the pledge is and see if they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it's sort of, I think you're right. And, everything on this side of the argument is like herding cats. But I'd said to them, listen, we've done those little heart-shaped, I should have one on now, or they'll get annoyed with me for not having one on, but these little heart-shaped badges, we sold gazillions of them, right? And we're going to donate to Tommy's legal fund as a result of it. And I think it's really nice that so many people have got on board with it, and I think it's fantastic. But at the same time, I want to see a momentum. I want to see a development with each iteration of what we're doing. I don't really want to see just another bunch of people gathering together to wave. Lovely as it is to see a sea of Union Jack flags and St. George's flags. I'm like, what are you after, guys? What do you want? We had a guy commit suicide in jail. There's people are being arrested for praying to the unborn. There's people being arrested. I'm basically
pushing back because there is no answer. We have to provide the answer. Like we have to provide a solution. No one's going to give us a solution.
No, I know. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say to those so if you're confronted with a speakers list of which you have no idea who these people are, at 7 p.m. last night, which is what I was provided, having asked for days and days and days and days, what is going on? Before there would have been right, this is the order of service. And one of the things that is really good in this situation is that you have someone like Carl get on stage and set the tone. And what he does, like a sort of kind of slightly stern schoolmaster, is he turns around and goes, by the way, this is all very peaceful and stuff like that. And by bringing in, a huge number of speakers, who I have no idea what they're going to say in such a febrile environment, I'm like, well, I'm going to be a bit cautious about this because I still have good relationships with conservatives and high up conservatives, and I want to try and go, look, there's the way of linking you to them without it all going tits up. And I'm really, really glad that it didn't resort to violence. I'm just saying, Keir Starmer's away watching Arsenal, I imagine. I don't think the regime, I went to every lockdown protest there was. I don't think they care what we think. And therefore, where are we a threat to them? Where is our authority a threat to their authority, I suppose, is what I'm saying. And when there's several more marches with lots of emails about donations to a very, very worthy cause, which is Tommy's legal fight, where does that lead us? And that's where I sort of end up really now. I'm like, well, everyone's going home tonight, and what conversations will they be having on the train? Will they be like that? That was it. We did it. We got everyone on board, or is it like?
Well, I think we collectively, we as a movement, the patriots of this country, clearly are a threat to the establishment. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so keen on locking Tommy up as the figurehead, right? So these trumped up terrorist charges, for example, no one ever suspected of terrorism, but they're abusing the law in order to get him arrested. Same with the contempt of court stuff and this whole having showed his documentary, for goodness sake. It's all, they want him silenced, which is obviously why he called it silence. But so we are a threat, but you're absolutely right in that. What are we doing about it, or how do we progress or build this momentum? I don't have the answer. I don't know if anyone does, but we have to just keep chipping away and keep trying to come up with something.
Yeah. What's your moving on? What's your take on the last week of? We've got 12 days now until the US election takes place. What's your take on that?
People here feel optimistic. There's a good energy about this country right now. Obviously, I'm traveling around and seeing different people, and I think it's going to be very difficult for them to prevent Trump from getting in now. They've tried to impeach him. They've tried to kill him. The reigning trick, I suppose, will be if they try to fix it. But I think after last time, the Republicans are too aware, and they'll be monitoring the election very closely. So it'll be very difficult for them for the Democrats to fix it. But I think Donald Trump might just get in. And so that'll be a good thing for America and a good thing for the world. But we've got just under 2 weeks to find out.
I was saying to Larry when I was in America, I was saying that you can only really cheat once, and without the other side, really looking at it. And we've got record early voting in all the swing states, and the voting is not looking good for Kamala, who I'm astonished is so thick. I just can't get past that.
No, they messed up. But it is a case of fool me once, shame on you; fool me twice, shame on me. So you're absolutely right. You can only get cheated once in this regard. But there's a lot of hope and a lot of optimism out here. Things are looking good. I think probably it's a little bit lighter than things are back home. But that's not to say things can't turn around there too. We've got a few years till the next general. But
that's the other thing. People need to realise that it's 4.5 more years until the next time they're going to be asked to vote. Do you think that voting is going to change anything? Or do you think that what we were talking about yesterday, the last time we were talking about the sort of Marxian ideas of repressive tolerance and, the intersectional aspects of how politics is done on the left might be useful to people on the right to turn around and say, well, actually, we want this for these strange reasons that have nothing to do with the talent of the individual concerned who is seeking elected office?
Yeah, I don't think politically in the short term we're going to have to turn things around, but culturally we can, and of course politics is downstream of culture, so we can become more intolerant. And the left have been using that as a weapon against us for so long, saying the right are intolerant, and we've been trying to prove how tolerant we are by accepting everything that they want to shove down our throats. In fact, now is the time to turn around and say, yes, you're right, we are intolerant. We will no longer have you teaching our kids this degeneracy at 5 years old. We'll no longer have men wearing dresses. We'll no longer have you turning our young girls into boys. We'll no longer have any of your nonsense. We are intolerant of your evil. Absolutely. Let's become intolerant.
What do you make of Welby? What he's been saying, and do you know what he's been saying?
Yeah. I did a piece about this in my crusade. He's essentially said to Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, two far left extremists, he joins them in their leftism and said, have sex with whoever you like as long as you're in a committed relationship. That is not the Christian message. The Christian message is that sexual activity belongs within a marriage, not a committed relationship, a marriage. And a marriage is a lifelong union between one man and one woman, a husband and a wife. And it's a holy sacrament that no man can put asunder. But it seems Justin Welby no longer believes in Christian teaching. He's undermining 2,000 years, not even 2,000 years, 6,000 years of this teaching. And so he should resign in disgrace. He is a shame to all things Christian.
Especially when we see an attack on Christianity in such a deep way. I was speaking to someone I love the other day, and they were saying, you really bring up Islam a lot in a political way. And I said, well, Islam is a political movement. It's not a religious movement at all, because it would be, if it was a religious movement, it would not try and inculcate itself with the state. It would try and win hearts and minds via the message of whatever Islam's message is. In my view, we're very clear on what I think about the message of Islam is, which is it's a supremacist, conquering final religion, which to me seems overtly political. And we've seen all this stuff that we talked about before about Muslims don't matter, and all these people sort of moaning and whining about Islam. But come 2065, we are going to be a minority white Christian country, and we're going to be a majority Muslim country. And I sort of sit there and go, I'll be dead by then. So I mean, it would be a miracle if I wasn't. What were these bad boys? But my kids won't, and their daughters won't. And at what point? So this sort of ties back into the rally. It's like, at what point that people say, well, what is it that we're trying to achieve? At least Steve Laws, disagree with him hugely as I do. At least he knows what he wants to achieve. He knows exactly what he wants to achieve, which is to get rid of everyone who isn't white, which I think is a stupid idea for a multitude of reasons, which I expressed to him when I debated him. But what does one do? I've made my prediction, which is going to be that 2029 is not going to be an election about the economy, because the economy will be trashed by Labour by then. But it will be an election based on Islam. I think it'll be the Islam election in the United Kingdom. Do you think that's a fair comment?
Yeah, I don't have any children, but I still don't want my country to become predominantly Mohammedan. I think that'll be a very bad thing for our country and for the rest of the world. So yeah, we're right to fight against it. And I think, as well-intentioned as your loved one who asked you that question might be, they're falling foul of the liberal game, saying, you speak about it too politically, like this, as if there's a certain way that you should be speaking about it, like policing your content and policing your tone, which is what they do to shut you down, to prevent you from speaking about it. If you can speak about it, and you should be speaking about it. We should all be speaking about it more, actually, because you said 2065. I think it'd be sooner than that. I think between 2030 to become a predominantly Mohammedan country, that's a scary thing. It very may well happen in our lifetimes. But even if it doesn't, it's something we should fight tooth and nail to prevent in general. We should help other countries push Islam out too. It looks like Germany wants to, it looks like France wants to, at least the people, not necessarily the elite. But we need a new crusade, and we don't have a bold pope anymore to launch one. So we need to have a grassroots campaign, a grassroots crusade, if you will, just pushing Islam out of the West, out of Christendom, back to the scourge of the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that, and I knew this from a child, really. I thought, if we allow a load of people in from different value systems and cultural norms into our country, then our country is going to be affected by those hugely, which it has been. And the bit that irks me a lot is the victimization, the self-victimization of these so-called minority groups. And you look at someone like Majid Nawaz, who is, who's made such great comments on so many things, and he's suddenly sort of retreated back into that Mohammedan position. And it's interesting, this idea that I don't know whether I've said this before, so if I have, sorry, listeners, but it's interesting that whenever they ask for the moderate Muslim to stand up against the extremist Muslim, to say, to condemn their actions, whatever their actions were, whether they be murder, massacre, suicide bombing, or whatever, it's very difficult to find a moderate Muslim to stand up and condemn that. Because actually, factually, and within the Quran itself, are calls for exactly the same thing that these people are doing. And I'm amazed that the West has not familiarized itself with what Islam is trying to do. And I'm also fascinated that people can't see that every country that Islam touches turns to shite very quickly. And obviously, you get the sort of mirage of success, which comes from oil and great wealth. But you get on adverts on in the UK about like visit Qatar. I'm like, why would I ever want to visit Qatar? You are an insignificant bit of sand that creates a huge amount of oil and wealth, which is the biggest terrorist supporting nation on earth after Saudi Arabia, one of our greatest allies. And I just get very confused by that. I don't understand. And I suppose I'm a sort of autistically logical person. I need to know what it is that we're rejecting. And I know in my own head what I'm rejecting, which is cousin marriage, Sharia law, and child marriage, and apostasy, and how one deals with apostasy in Islam. But a lot of Christians, and Welby, that little... don't know what word to use to describe Justin Welby, feel that unending tolerance is the answer to really bad things.
There is no such thing as a moderate Muslim. There are either Mohammedans who follow their faith or those that don't. And Welby is an apostate. That's a good word for him. But we don't kill our apostates, thankfully. In answer to the Mohammedan problem, or the mass immigration problem, is, as Viktor Orban was asked by ITV, when they said, what more can Europe do to tackle the immigration issue? He said, don't let them in. I think that's a very good place to start. I think that's somewhere between where you stand and where Steve Law stands. Like, there's repatriation is impractical. Whereas don't let them in is a good place. Let's just have a moratorium on immigration, stop it entirely, and then figure out what we'll do later down the line.
Yeah, it would be voted for in its millions, that philosophy. So I am always blown away by the fact that no one is really waking up to this. Do you think the British public are tired? Do you think they are? We've got a budget coming in the coming weeks where you're going to be, anyone who makes profit on anything is going to be taxed much higher than they were before. So, when Kamala goes, I want to create a, I can't remember what she called it, something economy, opportunity economy. That they use these words to talk to us about creating our opportunity economy. But what Labour are going to do is they're basically going to squeeze the throats of anyone who seeks to succeed in this country. And we've got 5 years of it, and their legislative platform, which is that will sit on the books for forever, essentially, unless someone comes in and tears it up. And I don't know who is going to tear it up.
And all that does is make poor people poorer. It squeezes the middle class and the lower classes. The taxation is literally theft. It's taking up money that belongs to people. What politicians should be doing is creating more opportunity for people to keep the money they've earned, the hard-working people to keep the money they've earned. And there's a rumor that Trump wants to remove income tax, which will be an amazing way to do that. And actually, there's something about him putting more tariffs out there instead. So that's a protectionist idea that put America first, so American industry can thrive. And if people want to import their goods into America, then they are the ones that get taxed. That's where the tariffs come from. It's a kind of incentive, but also that people get to keep the money they earn. It baffles me that America once fought a war over 2% tax, and now their citizens are taxed 30% at least, 20% at least. And we have a similar thing at home. It's in that God asks for 10% in our tithing, yet the state somehow dares ask for 40%. Right? The audacity of that. And people say, oh, well, we need your taxes for this and that and the other. Well, there are other ways. But also, do we need all of the things that the government is spending our money on? Of course we don't. We don't need the money to be spent on Stonewall and all the DEI operatives and all that nonsense. The government the local government should be fixing our potholes. And the national government should be making sure there's some kind of safety net healthcare system, not the golden calf that has become the national death service. There's so much. If there's a lack of efficiency, I think this is why Elon Musk would be a great thing for the US government in particular. He said he'll help clean out a lot of the waste, which is what he did at Twitter when he fired 80% of people, and still this website thrives. Government is bloated.
It does seem that the no taxation without representation thing is kind of a clear marker of whether you're free in any way whatsoever. And we've got a government who are pouring more and more money into Ukraine, who are pouring more and more money into diversity officers in the National Health Service, at the same time of denying and fuel allowance to the elderly and the needy. One could say that the sort of soft socialism, well, actually, I think Britain has always been hard socialist from the minute the National Health Service was founded. I think it was a revenge, as I've said before, on the freedom-loving people of Britain. But we are now facing a situation where I think a lot of people are talking about, should I pay tax? Why should I pay tax? I don't really want to pay for a few more Javelin missiles to kill off some Russian soldiers in a muddy field in Donbass. And the sort of begging bowl, this horrible self-loathing thing that's encompassed the whole West, but really bad in England, with sort of people walking around talking about reparations, paying money to people who were never slaves, to be paid money by people who were never slave owners, in a world which is covered in slavery and continues to be covered in slavery. And we're having a reparations conversation. I think for me, on a personal level, if the government announced that there was going to be a reparations policy introduced, that would be my moment where I said, I'm not going to contribute to the tax burden of that. I will not, because none of these people. Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling now that they've done Tommy, that I'm probably up there on the list, of people that are going to, and you've climbed up this. I mean, you're in America, but I don't particularly want to go to jail, but I don't mind going to jail. I'll go to jail for things I believe in. I think one should, but if the government do, I mean, Prince Charles pulled away from it to talk about reparations, and but imagine being a king, finally getting to be a king, going around the Commonwealth and meeting people who just hate you, whose country the great and the good of your country decided to make a better world for, and you're still angry and vengeful and vindictive and jealous of. I think it's just
I don't think they are. I think the Commonwealth loves Britain still as the motherland. I think most citizens within the Commonwealth would have rather remained within the British Empire. It's the elite who are the ones asking for reparations. We saw the thing with Barbados when the government claimed independence for Barbados without putting it to the people. There was no referendum. They didn't ask. It wasn't democratic. They just made that decision. And on the other end is people here, well, not here, but people in the UK, people back home, mostly white middle class liberals or upper class liberals who are arguing for reparations, as well as the race grifters such as the Lammies and the Butlers and the what's the other one, who are arguing for it, for people that they do not represent. And so it's all, none of it's democratic.
No, and I think there's a tiredness as well that I sense in a lot of people, which is like, I've been banging this drum for such a long time and it's not made any difference at all. And they wait for others to wake up and start to think, we pay, as you say, I pay 40, I think it's 45 now. I think Labour put it up to 45, or if they haven't, they will at the next budget. Everyone I know who's got loads of money is leaving. Like no one is staying. Everyone is leaving. And we're going to end up with a country with no taxes to spend on things. We already see that our capital city. I'm so saddened by this attack on this. I need to say her name because it's important that I do. Oh, sorry, I hurt my ribs with again water skiing with Eugene. But what you got to ask the public, where is Rhiannon Sky White in the public's conversation? Where is that? Where is she? Stabbed in the neck by a person with a screwdriver, stabbed in the neck by a person who arrived on a boat. Where is the fucking outrage?
Where's your friend at the Batley School grammar teacher? Where are these people?
They're just
still in hiding.
Yeah.
What is the state? What Kim Ledbetter doing? She's trying to push euthanasia on people, assisted killing. Like, where is the help? Where is the support from the government? It's not there. They're attacking and killing the people rather than helping them.
Yeah, I mean, it's
you have a death cult of a state.
Yeah, but my thing is, I want to crystallize what it is that we want to do, what we're trying to do. What is it that we're trying to achieve? What I'm trying to do, what I want to do, and I think what Musk is doing with his America PAC is he's saying, do you believe in the First and Second Amendment? Do you believe in those two things? If you believe in those two things, sign here, and a random person will get $1 million. It's not that different from what we were trying to do with the Tories before the last election, to say, look, sign up to this set of pledges, and obviously in a very English way, it was like you get $5,000 towards your campaigning expenses. But the lack of interest in that, when confronted with a Labour government which is just tearing up everything that we hold dear, and doesn't seem to care at all. The treatment of these of this poor man who took his own life, and
we are all Peter Lynch, absolutely. And I saw Paul Golding got attacked in the press this week, didn't he, for saying that he hopes that England gets demolished so that people wake up. And I'm with him on that. And I get what he's trying to say. He doesn't want to see England fall. Of course he doesn't, but he sees it happening anyway, and he wants it to be accelerated so that people do wake up and fight back, because people are not fighting back. There is a massive apathy as well as the malaise over the country. And I think you're both seeing it. You're all seeing it. But to answer your question of what do we do, there is nothing yet that we can do. There is no party to vote for. There's no policy to approve. There's no group to join. There's nothing to actively participate in. And so people just need to keep sticking their heads above the parapet and keep speaking out, and like what you're doing and like what they did at the rally, and just keep getting out there until momentum builds up, until enough people do wake up and want to join the fight.
Yeah. Do you think that that number of people is increasing, or do you think that number of people is getting tired? That's the other thing I was thinking. I was like, when I was trying to ask them, what's the direction? What are we trying to achieve with this? It's like, well, it's two-tier policing, it's two-tier care. And I'm like, yeah, but what's the goal? Are you, instead of what you're against, what are you for? Are you for equality under law for everybody? Because if you're for equality under law for everybody, that would be fantastic. And therefore you could start up a super PAC. I spoke to the Conservative, Claire Bullivant, who wants to start up a British super PAC to do very much the same thing. And at least that to do something, like shall we have a list, like the lefties love having a list. And should we have a list of the judges that have sent people to their deaths, essentially? And Tommy's not going to be welcome in that prison because, surprise, surprise, our prisons are full of jihadis. And you've got Shabina Mahmood sitting there talking about Muslims don't matter, and she comes up with random statements like there are more Muslim doctors in the UK than there are terrorists, and it's just like, that's not true. You're not speaking the truth. So when does one sort of give up on the whole idea of trying to talk reasonably to these people and just start spitting the facts out at them? Random, like, I always think my job has always been to say the things that other people won't say. That's always been my job because, as you have been cancelled repeatedly, it's like, okay, well, I've got a different. I'm going to tell you what I think is the major problem, and one of the major problems is Muslim apologists in the UK. I found that to be one of the most serious problems, and that Christians will apologise for them. And I'm like, you don't need to dig too deep into the Quran. And I'm no theological scholar, but you don't need to be, because no one knows what manner of woman is anymore. I'm able to determine and understand from the Quran for what the Quran is asking for. It's not asking for like, let's all get along and have a great time. It's not a hippie manifesto, is it? At the end of the day, it's a supremacist final solution religious organization.
Well, we don't adhere to the Magna Carta or the English Bill of Rights. We don't have a constitution, a written constitution codified. We don't have the protections. We don't have anyone fighting for those protections. So maybe that'd be a good place to start. Some written, explicit constitution or protections. But even most conservatives are against that, saying we don't need it because we've got our historic constitutions. But that's not adhered to either. So I don't know where we. I just can't get my head around I tried to monitor the conversation, and the people are upset and angry, but they're not willing to do or say anything yet. And they're still looking for leaders to do or say something for them, or to take their place, or they're looking for Tommy Robinsons to go out there and get arrested for them, to be martyred for them. Like, they want to sit there behind their anonymous online profiles and moan about how bad the country is without actually fighting for the country or contributing in any shape, way or form. So I don't really know. I don't know. I don't think people are there yet. I don't think the country is there yet. We've got to keep doing what we're doing and bide our time until people are awake. We can't force people to wake up.
Do you think that people should be allowed to have anonymous internet accounts?
Yeah, allowed to. Yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea. I think if you want to say, look, our country should be a better place, you should put your photograph there, put your name there, own your opinion. I've always said this since the very beginning. Like, just don't be a troll. Be an individual who is accountable for their own words and their own beliefs, and normalize normal beliefs again.
Yeah, I get stopped all the time by people saying, I wish I had your courage to say it. And I'm like, yeah, and they were like, I was like, well, you can just stick a picture of your face and go, I don't agree with this.
People say, this is a good one, because people look at people like you and think, well, you don't have as much to lose, actor making millions of pounds a year. In fact, you have more to lose for speaking out, and you did speak out, and you lost most of that stuff, and you've had to start again with. But this is the way. Like, if you speak the truth, you may be persecuted for it, but you will at least be speaking the truth and living in truth. The truth is more important than living a lie for the sake of comfort and convenience. But I generally think most people prefer comfort and convenience. We saw this again over COVID. People prefer safetyism to freedom. And we don't live in a country anymore that, well, I mean, you don't live in a country anymore that prefers or believes in freedom. I don't think.
I live in a country which is pushing itself further and further towards zero risk, I would say. It was like we live in a zero risk country. And I'd say that's entirely antithetical to what it is to be a child. So, and I'm as guilty of it as anyone else is, because I haven't had to take my kids in to have their broken arms reset. I haven't had to do it because we haven't been in positions where they have. I've got a big scar up here. I got that at Thorpe Park, and it was dangerous and it was risky what I was doing, and I suffered for it. But this search of zero risk, the zero search, which I think is very demonic in a lot of ways, has completely captured our society and captured our children hugely as well, which is the permanent victimization of our children, that we got to protect them in whatever way is possible. And I think it's profoundly unhelpful. So
it's become a cultural thing. Like, the French don't have it. They've always had liberty. They've always had that belief in freedom. That's why they're probably so chaotic and anarchic. Whereas, it's a very different cultural environment. And again, the Americans always believed in freedom as one of their core assets. I believed that we did too. But I don't think we do anymore. But how do we get that back? How do we remind people that freedom is important, true freedom?
Well, it takes a generation, and until you wake up, I suppose it's the benefit of the marches and stuff like that, and the COVID marches and all that sort of stuff, which is to remind people of the thing that they're giving up rather than the thing that they're taking on. So you may be taking on medical, exemplary medical treatment, which is bollocks, because they didn't know what they were doing with those vaccines. But you are asking people to take responsibility for their circumstances, for where they live. And I was I don't really dig into my replies or anything, but I noticed there were a lot of them when I said I wasn't going to go today. And a lot of it is like, you're not quite far right enough for me. And there is a sort of drudgery in the Twitter discourse, and a lot of people, politicians included, who I speak to, they say Twitter's not the real world. Twitter's not the real world. It is the real world in a lot of ways, because it's the only platform on earth that exists fundamentally to uphold the value of free speech. It is the only one. We don't have a single thing other than that. And those that are engaged with it, and they're going to become more engaged with it as time goes by. I don't feel depressed about that. I just think, who is going to step forward and say, this is the policy, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, and this is how we're going to get our, we're going to try and at least stop the rot in our country, rather than doing what we really need to do, which is turn around and say, actually, we start with the celebration of our culture. That's where we begin. We don't begin with the denigration of our culture. We don't react against the denigration of our culture. We begin with the fundamental celebration of our culture. That's what I would sort of say.
And that answers your first question at the start of the podcast. And what is the point of this? This is what it is. It's a celebration of our culture. That's why we have these rallies. And in answer to your question just now about who's going to stand up and represent this, well, we are. You are doing that in Reclaim. We are doing that in UKIP. Reform are trying to do that in their own way. Like, yes, they're all startlings at the moment. They're all small projects, but we are making an effort to try and provide an answer to the very clear problem in a way that our elite won't. But also, I think we've got to remind each other as well. I think you seem very downhearted today. So I just want to remind you that the audience isn't always the audience. Back home feels dark and heavy, and maybe it's going to be that way for a time. But people are hearing what you've got to say, and it's making a difference in people's lives. Everywhere I travel to out here in the States, people say, I love Fox and Father. Thank you, Fox and Father. Tell Lawrence Fox I said hello. Like, people are listening, and it's making a difference in the fight around the world, and especially in the States, not just back home. So we have to keep at it.
And do you know what has reached a record price today?
No.
What, Cal?
Oh, I thought you were going to say gold.
Gold.
Oh,
Everyone's
okay,
buying gold because they don't believe in the system. So they believe. So as Larry was saying to me when I was with Larry, he said that we're all like, the next goal of the globalists is turn us all into cannibals. I think the next goal of the people is to find a currency that they can operate in. So gold is now at a record high and has been for several weeks now. So go and invest in gold, and now we're going to play a gold video. And gold video finished. We like gold. We support those guys, don't we?
Good guys.
We support their right to. We support people's right to. I mean, gold will be the way forward. Actually, yeah, I am a bit downhearted. I've got to say, I hate it when people I've tried to help, and it's happened a lot in my short experience of this weird political thing that people do, is that you come to try and help people and then they try and take advantage of you in order to climb up some imaginary ladder of their own. And I don't really, I didn't know a single person who was organizing today's rally really well enough to go, would you babysit my kids or would I? I didn't know any one of these people well enough. So I'm not really in a position to endorse anybody at this juncture. And that, I suppose, is what we've got to build and what we've got to think about and what we've got to put together. But I think the most important bit which I've said to you, is to put some work into going, okay, well, what is Islam and what is its effect on British culture? What has its effect been measurably, its effect on other cultures? And can we really sanction this sort of stuff in our nation? I just don't think we can. I may be stupid, but that's what I think.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people agree with you. And I think you've had an interesting weekend and you've had a lot of kickback, but generally speaking, people still support you and don't let the trolls bear you down, because they are anonymous and they don't do anything. They don't contribute in any productive way other than to expect other people to act on their behalf.
Yeah, I don't read them. So I just noticed that there are a lot of comments. And then some dude called James Harvey or something pops in. He's like, you're a traitor. And it's like the language in this, oh man, seriously. It's so
is this the guy who did the video?
Probably. Yeah. And it sounded very extremist to me. It sounded very...
No, because I watched his video. His video seemed fine, but I didn't know if there was something deeper, if you two had a spat or a disagreement on something.
Well, he was calling me... He was calling me...
calling you a traitor?
I think he was... I don't know. I didn't see that. It appears in my kind of verified comments. Do you know what I mean? I think which is how you are followed.
I may have missed something or misunderstood, but I just thought he was saying, look, Tommy's been arrested, we're still going to go down, let's still do it. And then I saw you quote tweet him saying he's an extremist. I didn't know if I missed part of that puzzle.
I think there are a lot of wrong-uns there are a lot of dissemblers and wrong-uns in that movement. And I think weirdly, Tommy, by being the most dissembling and the biggest wrong-un out of all of them, managed to sort of outflank them. And I was just concerned. I was just like, well, who are these people? I don't know any of these people. So
I remember Kemi said to me back in the day, I will not take a Puritan test. Because I was saying to her, when the first time she was running for leadership, I was like, you've got to remove this. This looks bad. This is not a good statement. This is not conservative. She said, no, I won't pass a Puritan test. I think that's a good mindset to have, because a lot of these people want you to be 100% pure in their ideology. And when you're not, they'll attack you. And we've seen that with you, but we also see that with Tommy, to be honest. I see a lot of comments saying, he's a Zionist and this and that and the other. He's not for Britain. It's like, if Tommy Robinson, the person who's painted as the most far-right person in Britain, who's painted as the biggest patriot, isn't patriotic enough for you, perhaps you have issues, and no one is perfect. And this, of course, is a Christian message.
And where were the British media class defending him? Because they decide he's not a journalist. The guy's done a documentary which has been watched by best part of 60 million people so far.
Fantastic documentary.
And it makes him not only a journalist, as I pointed out to someone today, but it makes him the most successful British journalist of all time.
But he's not in their class.
And he's not in their class. And that may be the problem that needs to be dealt with. Because one of the first things that came out of the group yesterday was people turning around, or one particular individual turning around and going, "You're just some middle class tosspot." And I'm like, who pays for your demonstration? That middle class tosspot?
I detest that reverse snobbery as much as I detest the snobbery of the media elite. Like, it doesn't make sense to hate on each other for our class. We can't help what environment we were brought up in or born in.
Do you and I ever talk about our class ever?
I don't think it's ever come up.
Have we ever talked? We have talked about skin color because
all the time. Because you're a fat racist.
I'm a massive racist, but we do talk about skin color, but we talk about it in terms of how it is not a useful measure of anything.
Yeah, because one of the first videos we ever did was saying we don't need to measure our success or our lives or anything, our experiences by our skin color. We did that. People.
We did that video, by the way, in 2020. Our critical race theory video, which you can find online if you want to dig through either mine or Calvin's Instagram account.
Let's find it and put it in the show notes.
Well, we were trying to talk about this, and now we're down the road. Calvin's in Michigan, and you know what's so lovely is that so many people have said to me, "Calvin looks so much happier." And he seems to be doing so well. And I just, ultimately as a friend, what you want is your friend to be doing well. That's what you want. I had this with actors when I was acting. I was like, there were actors who would get really great acting jobs, and some actors would like to be spitting venom about how dreadful it was that they succeeded. But I was like, no, I like them. They're doing well. That's great. And we need to get back to that kind of appreciation and meritocracy. I think I'm just sort of working my way through headspace wise where the goals are, where the goodness is. And
so this is why I want you out here, because I miss you as my friend, but also I know you'd be a lot happier if you were out here. I mean, it's a weight off my shoulders being out here. And I genuinely am happier. There's a darkness, there's a heaviness in the United Kingdom right now, but misery loves company. And there are people that want to drag them down to their level because they have no way of getting out, or they don't want to get out, or they're apathetic or something. And they're like, oh, how dare you leave? Those people are the part of the problem. Again, they're not positively producing anything or contributing in any way. They just want to drag everyone down to their miserable level.
Yeah. And I think that my kind of despondency, as you're picking up on, is that I don't really see a way out of it. So what's your week got in store for you, man?
I am off home this afternoon. I've got mass tomorrow, and then after church, I'm flying out to Arizona for a Trump rally on Monday, which should be good fun. And then back home on Tuesday. And then I've got a friend, Callum Smiles, is coming over to stay Wednesday until the weekend, I believe. So I'll help him. I'm going to be his cameraman so he can do some vox pops in town and find out how people are feeling about the election. So yeah, a busy week, but a good one. What are you doing this week?
I am I'm just finishing the studio, so I will be in there hopefully by the end of next week, and hopefully you'll have a shipment of cameras and gear arriving. I went into the garage today to try and clean out everything, and I was like, oh my god, there's so much stuff here. So they're just finishing off that studio so I can have a sort of man cave instead of this, which I love. But it means that everyone else has got to sit in the other room and be quiet while I'm on the thing. So yeah, I've been with Eugene and loving it, and walking the dogs and teaching them, and just I think when you don't know what to do, one of the best things to do is do nothing. So I don't think there's any point in me inventing problems. We've had a disappointing result on our judicial review over what they call draft guidance in schools. That's been very annoying. And one just has to sit down and take stock and work out where it is that you can get some victories here, because it's really hard work. And a lot of me just goes, I just miss what I'm good at, which is like pretending to be someone else. Just give me some lines and I'll just say them.
Honestly, I just wish you and Matthew Marsden would team up and set up your own sound studio.
Well, I just wish that there was somebody out there who had some fucking money, who was willing to go, we'll put, I don't know what you need to make good independent film.
Reclaim Hollywood.
Well, it needs reclaiming. It needs reclaiming.
Why can't you reclaim the West End? I don't know. Why can't Reclaim sponsor this stuff?
Well,
why does it have to be politics? Take back the culture.
Because people still think that politics is the answer, and it's not, and it won't be, and it's going to be increasingly obvious that it's not. But I think that people still think that, you know, there's a political solution to this problem, and there isn't one. So we're better off just kind of mooching our way through. I personally just sit there and go, I've got a lot of things I want to say. So I'm happy about the fact that I'm going to have a place where I can say them from. And I'm going to do that on a more daily basis, you know, just to offer some insight into what I reckon about stuff. But I also want to stay away from people that are out there just to kind of hang on someone else's coattails to get famous. I'm very wary of that. Yeah. But that's me. But I love you.
Love you too, brother. And I hope to see you soon.
I think we can call this the most downbeat episode we've ever had.
No, it wasn't bad. It's all right.
Was it downbeat or not?
No, it's fine. The viewers will let us know.
No, listen, I love you, and I will speak to you in a week.
Speak to you soon. God bless.
God bless.